Welcome to Pioneers in Payments, where payments experts share their insights. Now, here's our host, Donna Blum.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Pioneers in Payments. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with David Lorenz from HPE. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Donna. I am with HPE, not HP. Whenever you tell someone you work for HPE, inevitably it's like, hey, I'm having a problem with my printer. Can you take a look at this? No. For Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So, and just to start off, these are my views of macro perspectives. These aren't necessarily HPE's views. I don't want to um, convey that I'm a representative of HPE and these are HPE's perspectives on these things. These are my views. So, anyhow, so I work for HPE in the NonStop business unit. I'm a sales specialist selling the NonStop product. That's where the former Tandem Computers business unit ends up in the bigger HPE. Now, from a payments perspective, I've had a lot of experience with customers in financial services, but I've also been the external representative for HPE in payments at places like NACHA. I was at the Faster Payments Council in November of 19, where Ken Montgomery from the Boston Federal Reserve Bank came and talked to the group about the plans for FedNow. So then 4 months after that, I went to PayIT Conclave, again, as HPE's representative, and that was in Mumbai. And so I got to see firsthand the UPI. So it was like, on one hand, I'm hearing about what's coming, and then 4 months later, this is what it's going to look like when it gets here. So, UPI, Universal Payments Interface in India, has, I think people look at that as kind of like the benchmark for how we're going to evolve faster payments. They've done a lot over there with that. So, from a macro perspective, um, I'll go into the micro perspective about the NonStop brand just to give a little bit more context for what we do and how we do it. But the NonStop and the always on mentality, that's a pretty high bar, right? You've got to have people, you've got to have product, you've got to have processes, and there's a cultural um, what's the word I'm looking for, that we were embellished with that as part of going through training during the early days of the Tandem. I've been around since it was Tandem, and so that legacy that company left, even in a great company like HPE, we're special in that the way customers look at us and the way the expectations that they have of us, right, are pretty high. My own particular story, there was I had a fever and was coughing a lot on Christmas Eve one year. So the family decided it was in their best interest that I not attend Mass that year. So after they had left and gone to Mass, about 20 minutes later, I'm looking at my phone and I have a text, can you join this bridge call? Well, sure, right? Because that's kind of what you do. It was Christmas Eve. So I jumped on. There were maybe, 12 to 15 or 20 people from the customer, from our overall support organization, and we're scrambling more people. So that went on through Christmas Eve. And then at a certain point into Christmas Day. So while I was sick enough to get out of going to, Mass, I wasn't too sick that I couldn't engage. No, that's personal. Like, I could have said, hey, look, I'm too sick to do this, but that's not the culture we have, right? That's not the you're the trusted advisor on one hand, and then like 5 minutes later you can be the throat to choke. So it's a very unique role and a very unique place that we have in a company like HPE. So been a great ride.
Well, that's great. It sounds like because you work for a company that is nonstop, that you almost have to be nonstop as well.
Yes, and also the the brand of nonstop and not having failure, I think it drives my wife crazy because I'll buy multiples of things or we'll leave with plenty, just it becomes part of your overall being. And it's not just something that you work, all day looking for ways that things can break with customers. And then when you leave, you just go and, take risks. You don't. So, yeah, you're right.
So you've developed kind of a redundancy in your personal life. Like, do you have two weed whackers in case the first one fails? You've got your backup.
It's funny. I was out with buddies and we were talking about shoes, right? And I had a pair of New Balance 327s on. And I'm like, yeah, I just got these, da, 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 and I got them. He goes, wait a minute, you probably have them in blue, black, and white. And I'm like, oh my God, you know me. The same thing with shirts, the same it's kind of, prepare for it. If you're buying a little gadget, you're going to get extra batteries, you're going to get, every little widget that goes along with it, especially if you like it, right?
Yeah.
That's just, it's part of how you develop after being in this space for so long.
Yeah, you're always planning ahead and making sure you're prepared for the worst, right?
Yes,
Well, I think it's great that we're talking about this. Obviously, there's a lot happening in the payments industry, and instant payments, real time payments, is
right,
something that is talked about everywhere now, right? And so, really, that's payments that are happening from an operational perspective, 24 by 7 by 365. Payments are nonstop.
correct,
Um, and so, not every organization is really set up from an operational perspective today to support nonstop payments. For example, many banks still don't have an operational staff, to support clients over the weekends, those kinds of things. So
right,
it seems definitely to be the trajectory of the industry. And before we
yeah.
go too far down that road, I really would love to hear from you, your personal perspective on what you think the biggest trend in the industry is today.
There's a lady who's got a lot of attention from Franklin Templeton, Jenny Johnson, and I kind of align with her position. She said the biggest disruptors in financial services, not just payment, in financial services in general, are DLT, distributed ledger technology, the blockchain, and AI, right? And you can't pick up a tech paper today and not see AI. Blockchain, not so much. The other thing that she said that I thought was kind of humorous was she said Bitcoin is the biggest distraction. And there's a lot of people that will look at that, with wide eyes. So, yeah, I think when you look at something like the technology that Ripple has developed with XRP and the ability to launch and initiate a cross border payment and have it settle, not just start, but settle in 3 seconds, that's going to be something. I mean, if you're not participating in an environment where you can give customers that type of service, um, you're not going to have those customers very long. And they do it at fractions of a penny, right? So that's mostly cross-border payments, as I understand it. But that's the type of thing I think is coming. And in India, and even with some of the crypto exchanges, they've modeled their business on I think the expectation that people were going to do things from their phone, right? Think about the KYC AML process that you go through where you're signing something, sending it to the bank. Now, I haven't opened a bank account in a while, but I opened a crypto account. And that process was done on the phone very quickly and satisfied the requirements. And within, I would say, 10 to 15 minutes, I had an account. And that's, I think, like you say, faster payments are going to be something that evolves, and also just faster processes. Things have got to speed up. That we wrote a paper, Justin Simmons and I, about the changes that were coming to retail payments based on what's been done with FedNow. And I put a little bit of background in that. I can send you the link. The process in India was done with people who had phones and people who didn't have phones, right? They're poor people and they don't have a phone. So they developed a process to bring them into the ecosystem as well. So really, there's a lot of change that's taking place to move away from, traditional processes in banks. So yeah, I think, like you said, with faster payments coming, it's going to be the whole ecosystem is going to have to evolve to support that, because it's easy to do the technical aspect of sending a payment faster, but you've got to make sure everything else is online, from
Right.
settlement, from the transition to KYC and AML on a phone as opposed to through a bank process.
Well, and I was just thinking, with all of this evolution towards, and I just recently heard somebody explain the difference between faster payments and instant payments. There's a distinction between those, right? Which I won't go into, but it is interesting to recognize the difference between those two. Same day ACH, for example, is a faster payment, but it's not an instant payment. So but having a platform that is highly available, always on, nonstop, is going to be super critical in this industry as we move forward because, payments have to go through, right? And that could be any time of day, any day of the week, any holiday. Yeah, all the time. Okay, so my next question for you, David, is with everything that is happening in the industry, our audience is primarily individuals that work for payments organizations, whether they're banks or FIs or networks or third-party processors. But it can be difficult to navigate all the change and determine what what opportunities they should be taking advantage of. From your perspective, what is the top opportunity for these organizations?
So the biggest opportunity, I think, if you read the political press, you can't avoid the element that's going to change, the stable coin, right? That's going to be something that is going to um, be a sink for treasuries, right? They're going to put extra treasury bonds that aren't in the marketplace into that space so that people who want to participate in crypto will have a way to get in, right? You need a stable coin to purchase digital assets. You can't just do it with dollars. It's a stable coin thing. So I think stable coins are really going to be the opportunity. And I was watching something probably yesterday on one of the crypto podcasts, and they talked about Robinhood's plans with respect to evolving their business. Now, Robinhood's a crypto exchange, they're not a bank, but their expectation is that they'll be paying like 4% interest on your idle balance. And your idle balance is not going to sit in US dollars, it's going to sit in stable coins, and they get a return on the stable coins from whatever government institution they buy it from. They're also, this I thought was pretty amazing. They're also going to be able to deliver money to your door. So an ATM that comes to you, I didn't go into great depth on that. I just scanned it, but that's the type of thing that um, is going to manifest itself when you have legislation for how to evolve these things. Because keep in mind, the banks just got the okay from the, I think, the OCC, that they are able to hold digital assets as long as they secure them similarly to how they secure other assets. And so, what does that mean? I think we're waiting to see what the regulatory clarity is going to provide, because the anticipation that I think a lot in the industry have is that there will be stablecoin legislation. Both Congress and Senate have separate bills along those lines. And once that's clear, I think we're going to see a tremendous amount of change in the way that banks evolve with customers and how they enable, um, custody of those digital assets. Are they going to be able to do that themselves? Are they going to need scalable, highly available, reliable platforms to do that on? Right? We see maybe that there's a play in there for us. I think, and I don't think that's something that is any proprietary insight. Right? When you have a platform like ours, I think there's logical steps that you should take to try to evolve, and maybe stable coins and custody, that type of thing makes sense. So TBD, though, we don't have a solid plan along those lines. That's my opinion, anyhow.
Okay, so that's your opinion about the top opportunity. What is your opinion about the top challenge?
I gave a presentation. I used it multiple times, and like the opening was, you don't have a technology problem. You have a demographic problem. The people that are going to be your customers in the future look differently on banks. Years ago, there was this um, thing put together by, I think, one of the media companies, and they called it the Millennial Disruption Index. And the highest propensity to be disrupted were banks, right? The millennials didn't see the differentiation there, that they thought that at some point in time it was going to be a Google or a Facebook that would engage with them from a financial perspective. So now that's many years ago. The banks have changed a lot since then, but I think there's still, they keep making younger people that come into this environment and have influencers on TikTok or YouTube that are, looking at providing them insight on how they manage their financial affairs. In fact, I think I watched an ABA presentation of how to engage with influencers to help with your marketing efforts, because those folks aren't looking at magazines. They aren't paying much attention to TV ads and things like that might appeal to someone at a different stage in their life. I think the opportunity to embrace younger folks on an environment, or in an environment that they're comfortable with, is how banks are going to have to evolve as well, right? They're going to have to figure out the message to deliver to those younger people to get them embracing using traditional banking. They'll eventually get to it when they want to get a mortgage or things like that. But even so, there's a lot of folks that get mortgages through providers who aren't necessarily financial institutions, right? Maybe behind the scenes, there's a relationship. But so there's a lot of challenge with just addressing the changing demographic needs. So I think Bill Gates said, we need banking, but we don't need banks, right?
Yeah, we don't necessarily need brick and mortar. That's true. There's a lot of online banks now that are providing all the services that you require without, having a physical location. So,
And there's like different elements in the whole payment ecosystem, right? You got payment facilitators, people like Stripe and Cash, and everybody's got their hands in that, because I think it was such a profitable business that there were elements of it that, with the right volume, could be very lucrative. And so um, things spring up when there's profit that will give you, as an entrepreneur, an opportunity to, parse some of that profit away from the traditional means of doing that business.
okay, so if you had to just sort of summarize, take all of your knowledge and experience in the industry and, summarize what you think the silver bullet piece of advice is for payment organizations, what would that be?
I don't look at it from an offensive perspective. Obviously, doing things to increase your marketing reach is good. But from a defensive perspective, look at the businesses that we've been in from a nonstop perspective, things like stock exchanges, like the HLR, HSS network. When high frequency trading came around, it wasn't too many years until our business at the stock exchange, and we were the 800-pound gorilla, that evaporated in a period. I mean, we still have a few countries around the world that use our platform for stock exchanges, but the big ones here in the U.S. Have migrated away just because of high frequency trading and the speed. Integrity isn't as much of an issue anymore because you have so many transactions that don't require, integrity. They're just offers to buy or offers to sell that are ephemeral, right? Almost. And I'm not going to get to the viewpoint that I have on that. The other side of things in the telecommunication industry was network function virtualization. So as those things moved into the cloud, that cannibalized our business almost exclusively. We're off the purpose-built systems in that space, and everything's virtualized. And so we had two fairly large markets, and they evaporated. That's kind of beware, right? This is going to come at you very fast, and the competitors, you're not going to see them coming because they're evolving along different vectors. So I think it's important that you stay aware, but you know, recognize that you're going to have to change some of the things that you're doing to be able to be successful. So no silver bullet, if you will, but certainly an awareness that things are going to change, and how can we adopt to ensure that we still have a strong presence with a customer demographic that's growing. So, and that might require partnerships with people at different places in the ecosystem. That maybe it's a grocery store, right? I remember years ago being in a grocery store that had a bank right inside, and I think there was a tie-in with the bank. And now with stable coins and things, it doesn't take too much to think that, hey, maybe this grocery store could actually participate in this ecosystem, similarly to how someone like Robinhood is going to participate in this ecosystem, or at least their plans are. So,
Yeah, I definitely see a lot more collaborations and partnerships happening in the future. They're going organizations need to adapt, and sometimes the quickest way to adapt is to partner with a company that's already doing what you want to be able to.
yeah, partnerships are tough. You both have to have the same goal, and you almost both have to be coming at it from different ways to benefit from that a symbiotic type relationship. So that's a challenge.
Well, before I let you go, David, I want to make sure that our audience knows how that they can learn more about HPE, maybe get in touch with you, maybe any resources that you have available that you'd like to point them to. What would you like to share?
No, I'm available on email, lorenz@hpe.com, and I'll send you a link with some places where I've written articles on um, what I see in terms of payments and money. And we also have the nonstop section on the HPE website that I can send you a link to as well.
Okay, and we'll be sure to put those links in the description of the video so our audience can take a look there. And then there's an HPE website.
Correct,
Yeah.
hpe.com.
Okay, very
And,
good.
and we'll get you to the nonstop piece of that as well.
Wonderful. All right. Well, David, thank you so much for your time today. This has just been a pleasure speaking with you and gaining your insights on what's happening in the industry and where it's heading. And I also want to thank everybody for watching today. Have a great day.
Thanks, Donna. I appreciate being a part of this. It was a lot of fun.